Woohoo! UPS finally showed up.
Looks like another delivery for the van.
Maybe. But this stuff is really cool. It's called sound. Whoa, that was weird.
It's called Whoa, that was weird.
No, didn't you hear when I held? It makes the sound disappear. It makes the sound disappear.
Woohoo! Seriously? You're gonna break the bed.
Hey, so I got this awesome idea for the next van video. Imagine that we're at the beach and there's all these waves. What is up, my dudes and dudettes? We are back. Behind that camera is Colleen, and I am your host, Todd, and today we're going to be installing sound deadener in our 2022 Sprinter cargo van that you see behind me here. Now, it's important to note, aside from the intro, this stuff is not magic. The typical product that you see here is usually an asphalt or butyl film coated in this aluminum foil. And I like to think of this more as a resonance deadener than a sound deadener, because the thin sheet metal panels on our van tend to vibrate as we drive. This adds a little bit of weight to those, acting like a mass damper system, reducing that noise from vibration. There's actually not much acoustic absorption or isolation properties in this material, so there's no need to go crazy putting this everywhere. You're just adding a bunch of weight where other materials are more suited for this. But fortunately for us, this is just a small part of our insulation strategy, so let's take a look. You can see with this diagram and this beautiful shadow box that we've created, our insulation strategy. We have the skin of the van here, we have the sound dampener or deadener here, then we have 3M Thinsulate, which acts more as an acoustic absorption layer, and then we'll have our plywood panel followed by our microcell foam, which also has some pretty good acoustic absorption properties, and then lastly rounding it off with our Duramax fabric. We feel that this strategy will give us a nice, comfortable, quiet ride, and we are looking forward to putting it all together. Let's get started with step number 1. So we also want to evaluate the sound deadener sitch up behind the headliner as well, so we're going to go ahead and remove this. This is not a comprehensive tutorial by any means, but it will give you the steps required to do so. All right, is this thing on? Okay, we were originally going to put the headliner removal in this video, but we decided to break it out into its own video to keep this one nice and clean. You can check that out, I think, here, somewhere on this screen. Anyways, let's get back to it. All right, that was a bit of a chore, but we were able to remove the headliner, and you can see what we got going on up behind me here. There is not much coverage. We're going to do something about that. I'm going to be using 2 products today. One is the classic butyl with the foil film. This is just a classic sound deadener. And then second is this 3-in-1 hybrid deadener and acoustic isolator. This has a piece of acoustic foam in between 2 butyl layers, which acts as a deadener and a sound absorber. I'm going to be using this on areas that have a lot of wind noise and a lot of road noise. Some examples of this are the headliner, obviously, the rear wheel wells in the back here, and then up under the footwells. I'll probably use a little bit of this in the doors since it is heavy and I want that luxury door feeling that has some oomph when you close it. So let's go ahead and get started and get this project done. For up behind the headliner, as we mentioned, we went exclusively with a 3-in-1 hybrid material. I started at the top, in the middle, and worked my way out and down. You can see how I'm applying this as well. You peel back the liner a bit on one end, get that set, and then move across the piece, removing that liner a bit at a time and rolling that part down. This helps make sure there are no air bubbles and the deadener is completely adhered to the skin of the van. Another tip here is making sure your surfaces are clean. We gave them a quick wipe down with isopropyl prior to applying any of the stuff. And I think we mentioned this before. It's got to be clean to cling. All right, we are done with the headliner area. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. We used 11.5 sheets of this stuff, which equals about 8.33 pounds. So not too bad at all. And it definitely quiets down the front here a lot. All right, now we're gonna work our way back. Our van actually has the acoustic package. You can see it has a lot of these beautiful films already put on, but there are some missing areas like here, and then obviously in the slider door. So we're just gonna go ahead and fill in all the missing areas first. Here is my lovely assistant seen laying down the deadener with perfect form. She helped me apply this in the cargo area while I filmed and kept saying, "Wow, that's looking really great." Anywho, let's let Colleen finish that up while we talk about cutting this stuff. A nice sharp razor and straight edge works awesome for the long straight cuts, where I find scissors work better for the squigglies. There's also those instances where you need to make a crazy shape. I find templating with paper to be the best, then I lay it on top of the sheet of deadener and trace it with a trim tool. The foil liner picks up the indent quite nicely so you can make the perfect cut. Follow that up with the perfect install and road vibrations don't stand a fluctuating chance. This area on the van right here is probably the worst offender so far, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the mic close and do a before and after. I know it's hard to tell, so I have a little demonstration that will prove the point a little bit better. It is time for a Todd tip. It's a Todd tip! My tip for you, my friends, I probably sound like a broken record, but you do not need to go crazy with this stuff, and I'm gonna show you why. I have this cymbal here. It is naturally resonant, as you've heard. It has a diameter of 9.375 inches. If we want to calculate the area of this, that is pi r squared. Half of 9.375 is 4.6875. If we square that, that is 21.97 inches. If we multiply that by pi, which is 3.14159265535, that gives us a total area of 69 square inches. I promise I didn't plan that. If we just take 20%, only 20% of that area, that is 13.8 square inches. If I take that amount of the sound deadener and place it on here, listen to this. There is clearly diminishing returns with this stuff. Remember, our goal here is to only cancel the noises that come from vibrations. If we want to absorb sound or limit some of the sound coming in, there are much lighter and better materials to do so. Sure, if you cover your entire van with this stuff, it will reduce the sound just because you have an extra layer there. But again, there are better materials to do so. So only use as much as you need, otherwise you're wasting money and adding excess weight. One thing we noticed on our van early on is there were areas of the roof that were rattling like crazy when we drove around town. You know, getting groceries and stuff. It's because they had actually come loose. So we decided to do something about that as well. Using 3M seam sealer, a nice flexible urethane rubber compound, we went back and filled each of these gaps. On ones that were really bad, I would actually push up the roof a bit during the dispense to ensure the adhesive fully coated between the layers. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This probably seems like a completely unrelated step for a sound deadener video, but this was actually our main source of noise coming from the roof up here. You could go around and press up on these panels and they would completely lift from the structural support members as some of the OEM adhesive had already become compromised. This was only about 40% of the joints, but we went ahead and filled them all with 3M seam sealer. I'll go ahead and link the product we used in the description below. This is only set up for about 45 minutes so far, but I can already tell it is much more rigid, and this should help a lot with the noise that was coming from our roof. In fact, there were a few other places where the OEM adhesive had broken free from the structural members, like here. And here. We can't forget about here. In my opinion, this is pretty unacceptable for a new van, but they don't make things like they used to, and we will just have to do what we can to move on with our lives. We are in the back of the van here, and we just finished installing sound deadener on this door, but we haven't gotten to that one yet. I'm going to close these side by side to see if you can hear the difference. It's super obvious in person. This one has a nice, satisfying thud, where that one sounds like you're closing the door on an old tin shed. Oh yeah. Oh, gross. Let's take care of this one now. Our van has these plastic panels on the rear door which need to go. Use a trim tool to get under the edge and then pull the plastic clips with a quick yanking motion. Kind of like your Weird Al yanking-vitching it. Now it's time to handle the handle. If it's not clear how we're taking care of this, don't worry, we have another shot coming up that's more clear in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take your plastic trim tool and slide it in and tilt it back, which releases the lever while you slide the entire handle to the left, to the left. You can see it's just a little clip that catches on the edge of the metal, and all you're looking to do is flex this back to release. Chances are some of these orange clips will be left in your door. I popped them out like so. From here we applied the classic sound deadener. Like we mentioned before, we went a bit heavy on the doors with about 60 to 70% coverage for that weighted door feeling you find in luxe vehicles. We even put deadener on the backside surfaces. If you're reaching in the door like this, be sure to wear gloves. It's sharp as heck. I don't wear gloves because I already have scratched up hands, which is because I don't wear gloves. Damn, I just realized it's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Whew, it is getting really hot and I am starting to sweat, so we're going to take a brief time out and talk about today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by none other than me. We actually take great pride in purchasing all our own products and all the tools that we use in these videos, and we would never recommend anything that we don't personally stand behind. Speaking of which, let's talk about the tools that we've been using to install this sound deadener. There are two different types of these rollers. This one over here is a urethane roller, and this one is a knurled metal roller. While I've been using both of these interchangeably and I like them both, if I had to recommend one and only one, it would be, drum roll please, the metal one. And the reason why is because the extra weight really helps with fatigue and really helps drive the sound deadener against the skin of the van. We hope this helps. We decided to punt on the door panel removal to its own video as well, but you can see here we are removing the moisture barrier. A heat gun pointed on the metal side of the adhesive works perfect. Do not point directly at the white foam as it will melt. Alright, so we've removed the vapor barrier foam, and you can see that our door has hardly any sound deadener on it. Listen to this. We're going to go ahead and take care of that. I used almost all full sheets for the inside of the door, but on the outside I made these templates from liners removed from previous deadener. Make sure you have access to all bolt and clip holes. If you do plan on doing the doors, it can help to periodically check to make sure you don't have any deadener sticking out anywhere. Here's how we ended up on the front door. We put the 3-in-1 almost everywhere. There is some regular sound deadener down in these areas. You gotta be a little bit careful here because the window mechanism rides up and down on this rail, so you don't wanna go too thick, but we already checked the fit and function and we are good to go. So we're gonna throw the vapor barrier back on and continue on with the rest. To put the vapor barrier back on, it's as simple as pressing the adhesive against the van metal. If it's cold, a little bit of heat from the heat gun can help. We also ended up putting 3-in-1 under the front floor too. In order to get at this and peel up the factory floor mat, you need to remove these covers on both sides of the van with a T25 Torx bit. You also need to remove this little ditty. I used the tool from the trim removal kit and it worked great. Here's how we ended up on the driver's side floor. I left access to these screws because the main battery sits under here, and I also didn't put sound deadener here because the battery cover needs to slide back in order to lift off. And then over the seams, I used this foiled tape to help with adhesive migration. And here's how we ended up on the passenger side. I pretty much covered everything except the white cable duct, and better luck next time, seems. We foiled your efforts to stick to our floor mats here too. Okay, that about wraps it up. I'm gonna stop talking now. Sit back, enjoy the music as we take you on a visual journey of a sound deadened Sprinter van. Oh, hey, outro time? Outro time. Okay. All right, folks, that wraps up this episode of the Adventure Van Build Series. We hope you enjoyed it, and you may be wondering why we didn't cover the floor in the back of the van or the rear wheel wells. Well, we're going to be covering that on the flooring video, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. We can confidently say, after driving this thing to go pick up a table that Colleen found on Facebook Marketplace earlier, that the sound has significantly improved, especially from the roof. We are super excited with how this thing is coming together. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to slap that subscribe button on your way down there. We will see you next time. Attaches the, what the hell is it called? The metal roller.